What's up everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Adventure with Roger. We are going right back into the next episode of, you guessed it, the next new MMORPG, guys. I'm pretty excited about this one. I'm calling it the Prodigy of Colossus. Now, the Prodigy of Colossus came to me one day as I was watching way too much Sword Art Online. I'm not gonna lie about it. I was inspired by the whole Aincrad slash 100 floors of different types of monsters, and you had to fight your way up, and my gears and my little brain started spinning out of control, and it took me, I mean, I've been thinking about this Prodigy of Colossus for a while now, but it finally came into fruition when I decided to start doing these videos. So basically what happened, guys, is there was 5 world bosses, and 4 of them ganged up on the 5th. They killed him, he blew up, and he spread his DNA all over the world and into the creatures that live in the world. As a result of that, obviously all of those creatures now have a small portion of that world boss's DNA in them. The premise behind the game is to go around slaying monsters like crazy. Now, the catch is that every time you slay one of these monsters, there's an RNG chance that these monsters are going to drop a card fragment of the type of monster that they are. Once you get enough of the said card fragments from that particular monster, you can then take them back to town and have a smith craft an actual card of that monster for you, and that particular card will then have stats on it and abilities. So just picture yourself, you got your sword, you're going around, you're doing your grind. A lot of us love grinder games where we just get to slay monsters on a continuous basis and, you know, shoot the shit with our buddies, group up, get on Discord, and just have a nice, you know, slaughter fest. A lot of us love those kind of grinder games. What can I say, right, guys? All right, so there's 2 types of, let's go into number 2 now, guys. We're gonna go into number 2 now for gameplay and instances. So basically there's a huge open world area with all these monsters, right? Well, there's also 4 towers in the game, and all 4 towers are connected to a gigantic city in the middle. So you got the city in the middle. To the north you got 1 tower, south, east, and west there's 4 towers. Alright, guys? Each tower has 10 levels to it. Now remember how I said you're out there slaying monsters to get these card fragments? So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to slay enough monsters all over the open world until you get a deck of 40 cards. And you can only have 4 copies of the same card in one deck. So once you have 4 copies of one card, you can't get more of that. You have to go elsewhere, hunt different monsters, gain those card fragments until you have a deck of 40 cards. Once you have a deck of 40 cards, then you can take that deck and you are allowed access into the 4 towers into level 1. Now remember, they have 10 levels. So each boss on each level has a card that you get once you defeat that boss. So if you go into the northern tower, you run into the first boss. As an example, let's just say it's a small white dragon as an example. That small white dragon will drop a small white dragon card. You put that into your deck, and once you defeat all 10 levels of all 4 towers, you have another deck of 40 cards. Now, I want to touch on this a little bit more, but let's go into number 3 real quick. So like I said, I was inspired by Sword Art Online for this particular Prodigy of Colossus. I loved the fluidity and the flowing combat that was in the anime itself, and the insane combo potential Kirito showed, and the way he just devastated his enemies at times because he had such combat prowess. Also, being a BDO player, Black Desert Online, I really like the aspect of the way that game looks better than I would to the hard right side anime look. So I would definitely want to lean more towards something in the fantasy realm still, but a little bit more realistic looking than the hard right side of the anime itself, but still keeping it in the fantasy genre, obviously. Now, inventory, I had a great idea for this. Obviously, you're getting these cards and these card fragments and you're putting them in your deck. I'm still having to really explain to you what the deck is for, but that's okay. I'll get to it here in a little bit. Once you have one of these cards completed, I thought it would be a really cool idea that you would be allowed to then summon that card, almost like Yu-Gi-Oh, guys. I summon you, Pikachu, now carry all my stuff. That's kind of the idea I had, though. So you take one of your cards, you're able to summon this particular monster, and you're able to use that monster as a mount in the game. Or if he's not big enough to ride, you're allowed to use this monster as just he walks behind you, carries your stuff for you, basically. He's basically your donkey, guys. Alright, moving right along. I'm hoping I don't take 40 minutes on this particular episode. On number 4, we're going to go with level cap, and then we're going to touch on PvP. Alright, so the level cap is 100, guys. We're going to go level 1, basically level 1 through 9, 10 through 20, 20 through 30, 40 through 50, levels 1 through 10 of the tower. So 10 levels per level type situation is what I was thinking, something along those lines. So level cap 100. And then the PvP, I had an interesting idea where, because there's 4 towers, I was thinking we could have 4 different races, and it doesn't have to be humans, light elves, dark elves, and orcs. If you don't want it to be, we could do something like that, or we could make up our own races. But the thing is I had this cool idea where each race would be assigned to one tower, and then as people were going to defeat bosses in the towers, the enemy races could go into their tower and fight against the players themselves in like kind of a PvP thing, only they would look just like the monsters. So what would happen is there would be a separate entrance in the back of the tower for PvP, and when said player goes into the back of their tower and walks through a portal, they turn into one of the enemy monsters that's already affiliated with that tower, only they're still allowed to use all of their abilities. So once players go into a tower, they'll have like a safe respite areas where they won't be able to be attacked. But once they move into certain areas, the enemy races who look like all the rest of the monsters in the tower then have the ability to then try to attack the players, who could be in a group of 5 or could be trying to solo or anything like that. So I think that would be a really, really cool aspect of the game for PvP. And obviously there would have to be some sort of way to shut that off, so you didn't have to do that when you didn't want to. Or maybe we don't have a way to shut it off. Maybe we just have the game like that, where once you go into a certain tower, whichever race that is, you're just going to run into other players who look like monsters. You won't be able to tell the difference, and I think that's freaking hilarious. Alright, so let's go into number 5, endgame options for Prodigy of Colossus. So endgame options. So remember about the cards, guys. Each tower has a guild, and each guild has one guild master. Now, guild masters have to play card duels to maintain control of their guild. So you will be able to challenge guild masters based on your ranking of playing cards against other people. Once you play enough and you get high enough ranking, you'll be able to challenge the guild master to a card duel, and then if you win, you get control of the guild, which is freaking hilarious. Expectedly, guilds will change hands every couple of days, and running a guild will have serious benefits for either yourself, which it's possible to just do it by yourself. However, it would be very difficult to maintain a guild by yourself. Guild masters will have to play at least one card game every 12 hours, or they forfeit the right to be the leader of said guild, is an idea that I had for that. And also, endgame option is obviously to beat the boss of every single floor of every single tower, which would be extremely difficult when you have players trying to PvP you the whole time. Obviously, in the boss rooms themselves, you wouldn't have to face off against PvP as well. That would be insane. So I'm just gonna jump right into number 6 on this one. What makes it original? So I had this crazy idea where once you have a deck of 40 cards, and obviously by the time people beat all 40 levels of all 4 dungeons, there will be updates to the game by then. I had this crazy idea where players would be able to take their digital cards, and once they have like a complete set of those cards or a certain amount of those cards, they could then send a digital email or link or something in the game to the developers of Prodigy of Colossus, and they have to then send those players actual copies of the cards themselves in real life. And then, like, once a year, Prodigy of Colossus would have to have like an actual card tournament in like Las Vegas for all the people that play the game, and people would be able to go there and challenge each other to duels with the cards, and whoever wins the tournament for the whole weekend is then ranked number 1 for like the whole year until the next year when they have the next card tournament. And being ranked number 1 will give you certain benefits in the game, like you'll get like a crazy badass title on your name, like certain aesthetics privileges, like your own personal guild banner, or you get to wear like crazy badass armor nobody else is entitled to and stuff like that. So nothing like that breaks the game, but it's just like an outside aesthetic type of thing. That is what would make it completely original, is that you would get to use these cards outside the game in an outside tournament in real life. I think that would be freaking amazing, guys. Since this game is also so fight driven and it's all about just grinding monsters and destroying monsters on such an epic grind level, I think it would be awesome to have 40 or 50 different classes that you could choose from. And each class just has a crazy amount of skill lines, and you're able to diversify your character in any way. I think it would be doable because there would only be 4 races, and you would, I mean, it would take a whole shitload of playtesting by the developers, obviously, but I think it would be awesome to just have like an indescribable amount of different skill lines and classes that you could go down, so that you could really diversify your character versus everyone else if you wanted to. Now, in order to supply all these different characters with enough equipment, obviously there's going to have to be some kind of crafting involved. The different monsters around the world would obviously drop different types of materials, not just the card fragments. So we could definitely put an awesome crafting experience into the game where players would bring their materials on their mounts, backpack them into town, and you could have just an artisan circle set up, and you could tell people, hey, I'll give you this much coin to craft this or this for me. Or it could be like Lineage 2. The only characters that could craft in Lineage 2 were dwarves, and they could sit down and open a shop, and it gave people access to every single recipe that dwarf had learned, and then the dwarf was actually able to put a small amount next to basically telling people how much he wanted to get paid to craft certain recipe for whatever. And so the people would just walk up to the dwarf while he was sitting down, they would click on him, load the recipes into the dwarf, and then click craft, and then he would charge you like whatever the amount was, and then your item would pop out. And I always thought that was such a cool idea, because people could just leave their character running at night when they were sleeping, and they wake up the next day and they would have all kinds of money in their inventory from people just using their character to craft things. And I thought that would be a really cool idea for this game, only anyone could be able to do it. You wouldn't just have to be a dwarf, you could just have anyone able to do it. I think that would be really cool. Or if you didn't want to have your character logged in the whole time, you could just set up a shop and have like an interface of some kind where people walk into your store, they get a list of everything your character can craft right there in the interface, and then you have a price next to each item. I think that would be even cooler. That's definitely what we should do. So that way people could have their own little stores if they wanted to do that. Yeah. Alright guys, well, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for Prodigy of Colossus. I really appreciate you guys sticking around and letting me rant on these little ideas and these quirky little games that I have in mind for MMORPGs. I know that most of them will probably never see fruition, but I know some of you who have some money behind you will be able to take some of these ideas along with you, and hopefully someday I'll be able to back one of my own ideas. It will be awesome. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. My name is Roger. Don't forget to check out my other playlists. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Throw me a like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what's on your mind so I can help better my channel. I'd really appreciate you guys. I'm always trying to make it better. Let's just say that. Thank you so much. My name's Roger, and I'll see you on my next adventure. Take care of yourself, everybody.
Every sunrise is just for you.